Hello, welcome to Global Outlook. I'm Mary Sitt. What makes Houston Community College an excellent choice for students? Good leaders help shape the direction of the college, and our next guest has the vision to lead HCC into an excellent school that serves students well. Dr. Kurt Ewen is Chief of Staff and Vice Chancellor of Strategy, Planning, and Institutional Effectiveness, and we caught up with him a few weeks ago. Here's that interview. In the past 18 months or so, community colleges across the nation have had to pivot to deal with this pandemic. And today we have a guest who's our leader at HCC. He's a former professor of philosophy, and now he's applying his philosophy to the strategic vision of HCC. Dr. Kurt Ewen is the Vice Chancellor of Strategy, Planning, and Institutional Effectiveness, and he's also Chief of Staff. Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Ewen.
Happy to be here. Thank you, Mary.
So tell me, how has HCC managed to pivot in the last 18 months to continue to meet the needs of the students?
Well, I think serendipitously, if I can say that, HCC had just completed about 2 years worth of work on a new strategic plan. And in that work, we spent a lot of time meeting with the community, identifying the needs that we were not meeting for them. And that led, so I'm going to give you a couple scenarios here. One is that led us to a series of competencies that we committed to building out within our system. These were things that we weren't particularly good at based on what we were hearing from people all across the region. So those led to things like student support for our students, which is not to say that anyone said, you know, Kurt isn't very supportive. What they would say is, I go to one college and it's this way. I go over here, it's different over here. And so one of the things we committed ourselves to during the pandemic is a one college vision that has now morphed into something much bigger than that. So that if you heard about what was going on at HCC, you knew what was going on, right? It wasn't location specific. So that's the first competency.
So whatever campus a student went to, they'd find the same strategy, the same methods, the same logistics at each campus?
And in reality, the only campus they could go to was the virtual campus.
Okay.
Although we brought our workforce students back on fairly quickly, many of them, but the vast majority of our students are not workforce students. So they were experiencing us in one form, remotely, online. And so we had to get our faculty, we had to get everybody in a similar place.
Okay.
So that's the first competency, student support, communal outreach. And so being really attentive to the needs of the community, building our plans off of Harris County and what we were seeing in the news and in the reports about the condition of the pandemic and what we could do to be good citizens. Collaborative design. We worked very, very hard to make sure that we built out collaborative systems of working together in a way that we never had to do before, because we could virtually. I can have meetings at 3 p.m. with 70 or 80 people virtually that I could never do in person in a regular setting.
So in a way, it seems like this pandemic has accelerated the plans you had in place. Yes. Sort of forced HCC to do it faster, better, correct?
Correct. And then one of the other competencies, and I'll move on to something else. The other competency is being technologically mindful. When we first launched the plan, people were looking at me like, what does that mean? No one asked me that now, right?
Right.
So that we have to be technologically mindful, and everything that we do moving forward, that's going to be the new normal that we're going to be living with.
Dr. Ewen, in your position, how do you promote innovation at HCC?
Innovation is a very tricky word. Oftentimes what we do is we think that innovation equals creativity, right? I would say that innovation and creativity are very different realities.
Okay.
HCC serves on an average year about 100,000 students across 650 square miles of territory in our service delivery area at 20 locations with a huge administrative staff, right? Creativity at scale is innovation, right? We cannot design projects that are only intended to reach a small subset of our population. We have to make them as big as the population requires, which is
And at
not
the same time, I'm sorry, at the same time, you have to keep that personal touch, right? So the student feels
Yes.
accepted, acknowledged, like, hey, they know who I am. I'm not just a number.
Yes, of course. And that much is certain. But I think the bigger question here is, if we're trying to help students in developmental education, it needs to be specific to them, but it needs to cover all of them.
Okay.
Right? So the idea of having a grant that only deals at one college doesn't make any sense to me. It needs to be multi-college so that we can build it out in a way that we can scale it across the system. And I think that is the big thing. The other thing is providing people the opportunity to think. So when we opened the West Houston Institute, which is our innovation hub here at Houston Community College, 3.5 years ago, we initiated a set of innovation fellows. And now we're at more than 50 of those people. Those folks are now learning skills that they can then take into their classroom to innovate and to figure out what works for them, what doesn't. So they can be creative, innovative in their classroom, and we may discover that it's only good for them, right? It may work for them as a faculty member, but it may not be good for the system. That's fine. Provided that it is consistent with what we're trying to do everywhere else, right? And in some cases, we're able to take those and scale them out. So that's a little bit about how we get there, I think.
Very nice. Tell me a little bit about your strategy to enhance student success.
So also in our strategic plan, we articulated a vision related to our personas. So what we discovered very quickly is that we did not know enough about the diversity of our students as we were developing the plan. Houston is the most diverse city in the country. HCC has more international students than any other community college in the United States.
Wow.
So we began a process of developing personas. Personas are not about pigeonholing students. Personas are about reminding us to ask the student about their story, about their aspirations as they move forward in life. Mm-hmm. And we have now launched a quality enhancement plan, a 5-year plan built around personalized learning pathways.
Okay.
And the idea is that we take the insights from our personas, the data that we can collect around these 9 personas, and funnel that into the way we outreach to students, the way we communicate to different populations. Let's say we're building a new campus, and we know we're building a campus in West Houston in Katy, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That campus is primarily for transfer students going to U of H, which is right across the street. It is not a workforce campus. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So we can take certain personas off the table.
So you tailor the education on that campus to those students that would go to that campus, right?
Potentially, not pigeonholing or allowing it to be immobile, but saying in reality, this is the way we're designing this location with this intent. What does that mean about who we'll be serving? And that then allows us to be much more particular about the students that we need to meet.
And when you say persona, you mentioned 9 personas. What is a persona? Because outside of education, we may think of something else. What do you mean by that?
A persona is, in our case, a discrete set of a discrete story about what that student needs and is experiencing. It's the student. One persona could be the student coming directly out of high school, does not have the financial resources to go to U of H, but is a successful student, knows the path they want. At the same time, it could be the high school student that comes out of high school without the ability to go to college and needs support. Those are 2 personas.
Oh, so different profiles of students in a way.
Yes.
Without pigeonholing them.
No, and that person is going to need different support. And it has nothing to do with race, gender, none of those things. It has to do with what brings them to school, what are their life aspirations, what are their pain points, their goals, all of those things, so that we can be more able to support them in their needs.
It's really helping the students meet their dreams and making their dreams come true, right?
That's right. Yep.
And tell me, lastly, our last question, what has been the biggest challenge for you, Dr. Ewen, and how have you overcome that challenge, or how are you overcoming it?
I'm forever getting critiques from people who aren't in the planning meetings, but I can tell you that the amount of planning that we have had to do over the past 18 months, only to have it done, ready to go, and then we had to undo it at the last minute because the pandemic has shifted. We have had to learn to be much more nimble and to pivot on a dime when we needed to throughout this work, and that continues to be a challenge because the vast majority of us are not designed to pivot like that.
No, we like our little habits, we like our
We
routines,
like our
right?
plans. That's right.
This is the way we do it. Yeah.
That's right. And we're
This is
having
what they told us 2 weeks ago. Why can't we do it like that?
Exactly.
Learning to be flexible, and you constantly have to be resourceful and then adapt and change quickly, right?
At scale, right?
At scale, which makes it difficult.
Yes, because it's not just me who has to do this. I have to do this in concert with an executive council that has 20 members, an operational briefing group that gathers twice a week that has 80 to 90 people in it. I'm forever in meetings that have 50 to 100 people, and I'm basically leading that group into a different way of thinking, or helping all of us think differently about how we get to where we need to go.
It sort of reminds me of a general, like you're the general leading the army in a way, right? I mean, just sort of like, here's our vision, here's our plan, and then you get everyone to get on board.
Yeah, I don't like the hierarchical metaphor, but I get it. Yes, so there is a great deal of
You're much more collaborative, right?
Yes, a lot of cat herding going on over here.
Dr. Ewen, thank you so much for spending time with us today and talking about HCC's vision. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mary. Have a great day.
Thank you. Stay with us and meet one of HCC's successful students from Vietnam, who would tell us how she's learning and thriving here on campus.
I love teaching at HCC.
I love helping students.
With college credits.
With scholarships and financial aid.
Training them for life-changing careers.
Come learn with us.
HCC, for everyone, anytime, anyway.
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you'll go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
HCC is one of the largest international student programs in the nation. And here to tell us more about her experience is Thi Nguyen. She's from Vietnam, majoring in accounting, and she's also one of HCC's student ambassadors. Thi, thanks for coming on the show. So tell us, why did you choose HCC in the first place?
So actually, to be honest, I choose Houston Community College because the tuition fee is really affordable. So after I get an associate degree from HCC, I can transfer to a university. So, university here are very expensive. So if I spend 4 years at a university, I will spend around $90,000 for 4 years, not including books, food, and accommodation. And furthermore, I like HCC because it's a variety of programs which provide students with more options so they can consider.
So you chose HCC because it was a very practical choice. It fit the budget. It was financially affordable. But once you got here, you also found out the quality was really good too, right? What do you think about your professors so far?
They're really nice. They're really helpful. So when I need, when I don't understand assignment, I email them and they email me back really quickly.
That's great. So you've been away from home for a while and on the other side of the world. How have you managed to adjust here to this culture and this, to Houston?
Uh, Actually, luckily, my grandparents, my aunts, and my cousins stay in Houston. So actually, I don't feel lonely a lot when I stay here. And in Vietnam, I used to stay by myself. So it's not difficult for me to be away from home.
That's great. So you have a whole support group right there, your family, right?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. What now you're an international student ambassador. Tell me how that works. So students come up to you and ask you for help for different things and how to adjust to life in the States?
Yeah, so right now I'm an international ambassador. So if students need my help, they can email me or send me text messages so I can help them. Like,
and what kind of questions do they ask you, T? What do they ask for help for?
Most of students, they want to, they're afraid of the status here. Like they're afraid they can do something wrong, so they can lose their status. So I just want to make sure they take, like enough classes to make sure they can maintain their F1 visa.
That's great. What are some of the things you appreciate about studying at HCC, and how is that different from the academics in Vietnam?
Oh, actually, here, American education is completely different from Vietnam. So to be honest, like in Vietnam, teacher, they don't give us assignment. Essay, not assignment, to write, And then we don't have blackboard or canvas in my country. So online classes are not popular in Vietnam either. And in classroom, we, teacher often speak and we just listen. So it's quite boring.
So it's not interactive at all, right?
Yes, no. Yeah. So
and
here, yeah, here,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so here teacher, they encourage students to use their critical thinking. That's why they give us many essays to write.
What's some really good advice you give to other students?
You mean if for international students?
For international students, yes.
So I think I know, because I'm an international student too, so I know like what difficult. First, I think they should know how to manage their budget. Because when you just first came here, everything is so different. They like everything, they can travel, and then, they can spend a lot of money. And so, I think first they should set their goals and determine to achieve them. And second, I think grades, they should focus on their study. Grades is really important for international students, because if they go back to the country, they renew the visa, they should check, before they give us a new visa, they always check the students' grades. So make sure
if your grades aren't really good, you may not get back in here. Is that right? If your grades aren't good, you may not get back into the country. Is that right? You have to have
that's right. Yeah.
And then also you mentioned earlier, do your homework assignments on time and submit them on time. Don't get behind in your studies, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So what is your career goal, T? What do you want to do after HCC?
Actually, I really enjoy helping international students. Like, I really like to work at the international office at a college. So, such a TSO position. So that's my career goal.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, and wish you the best of luck in your academic success.
Thank you.
How can we remember and learn from the past? Oral history is one of the best tools. We'll explain when we come back.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But I get it, you're busy, and busy people can't have prediabetes. I read that wrong. They can, okay? Just go to the site.
I love teaching at HCC.
I love helping students.
With college credits.
With scholarships and financial aid.
Training them for life-changing careers.
Come learn with us. HCC, for everyone, anytime, anyway.
Our next guest is making history by recording the history of others. Mr. Krishna Vavilala is the producer of the Indo-American Oral History Project, and last August received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the India Culture Center in Houston. He was also instrumental in starting the India Studies program at University of Houston, and it was his idea to have a statue of Mahatma Gandhi in Herman Park, and was the project manager of that. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having
me.
So
tell me about this Indo-American Oral History Project. You have interviewed 60 people already for this project. How does it work?
It went very well, and it is an open-ended project. We're interviewing most of the first generation Indian immigrants who settled in Houston for the last 20 years and over. And we are continuing interviewing people one after the other whenever people come forward for the project.
And I think your technique is very interesting. You don't seek out people to interview. You wait for volunteers, people who want to tell their story, and they contact you. Is that right?
Yes, basically this is a project of the people, by the people, for the people of the community. And people contact me, and whenever they contact me, we schedule the interviews, and we record them. And then we transcribe their interviews verbatim, and we upload them to the Houston Metropolitan Research Center servers.
And why is this you? What motivates you to do something like this?
Well, most of the people are of my generation who came over in the 60s and 70s, and they have retired. And now, slowly, one after the other, they are, as you know, by nature, they are disappearing. And these histories are valuable resource for their generations, next generation children and their grandchildren. When they look back to find out their roots, they have a database in the Houston Public Library.
And I think it's wonderful that they tell their story in their own words, in their own voice, so the next generation could hear that. So many people say, I can't write my history, and it's so daunting a task, but they can talk, right? And people like to talk about themselves. So the Oral History Project is great. You're very involved in promoting Indian culture and American Indian culture here in Houston. And tell me what else you do, and why is it important to promote this culture here? Like, why a statue of Mahatma Gandhi, which is wonderful, but why in Herman Park?
Well, as you know, in the world of politics, where relationships between nations are changing, and sometimes, particularly in the Indian subcontinent, is subject to a lot of turmoil. And there is a lot of friction between the nations. That being so, I thought the people who came from those countries and settled in Houston, they get embroiled with emotions, impacted by the events back home. And I felt that there needs to be a constant reminder of peace in the community here.
That's great, a symbol of peace. You recently received the Lifetime Achievement Award, which is a wonderful honor. Tell me what that means to you. And if you had to pick one accomplishment that you've achieved, what are you most proud of? And if I may say at this point, you are 84 years old. You look absolutely remarkable. You look at least 10 or 15 years younger. What would you say is the best accomplishment, or one you're most proud of?
I think I feel proud that the Mahatma Gandhi statue has been installed in the Herman Park as a constant reminder of peace. And it so happened that I was asked to speak at a peace rally on the City Hall steps back in 2002. And it just inspirationally, I came up with that idea and I announced that the Indian community will gift that statue of Mahatma Gandhi to the city of Houston. At that time, Mayor Leafy Brown was in charge of the administration, and he kindly accepted the statue to be installed in the central place of Houston, Herman Park.
That's wonderful. We can go by anytime and look at that statue and remember who was the project manager and who was Muhammad Gandhi. Can you tell us what kind of words of wisdom would you give to the younger generation, to the college students here at HCC? What would you want to tell them about just life in general, what you've learned and what drives you and keeps you going strong at this age?
Well, I of late started thinking with the identity issue and recent political atmosphere of race and divisions and polarization in America. I thought that the identity has become very important. For example, Indian community will feel very proud of the Surgeon General, present Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, for example. He hails from India. So we feel very proud of him. Similarly, anybody who's contributing to the welfare of this country, who happens to be, from the Indian subcontinent, particularly India, we feel very, very proud. So those were the types of contributions we want the younger generation to consider them as role models to contribute to this country, America.
So you would tell the younger generation, know your roots, know where you come from, and emulate the ones who are the good role models, right?
Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you so much. We're out of time, but I appreciate so much coming on the show.
Thank you.
That's all for this edition of Global Outlook. We'll see you again next time every Friday and Sunday at 7:30 a.m. and p.m. plus Saturday at 10 a.m. Or you can download a podcast to go on our website at hccs.edu/podcast. You can also watch the full video version on HCC's YouTube channel. I'm Mary Sitt. Thanks for joining us.